Has the Department of Justice brought even a single case under this statute? It's a yes, no question.
The job of the United States Marshals is to defend the lives
So
of
the answer is no.
Is to defend the lives of the justices, and that's their number one priority. They have.
Why are you unwilling to say no? The answer is no. You know it's no. I know it's no. Everyone in this hearing room knows it's no. You're not willing to answer a question. Have you brought a case under this statute? Yes or no?
As far as I know, we haven't, and what we have done is defended the lives of the justices with over 70 U.S. Marshals.
How do you decide which criminal statutes the DOJ enforces and which one it doesn't?
The United States Marshals know that they have full authority.
I recognize you want to give a separate speech.
No, I don't want to.
How do you decide which statutes you enforce and which ones you don't?
The Marshals on scene make that determination in light of the priority of defense.
The Marshals do not make a determination over whether to prosecute. You, the Attorney General, make a determination, and you spent 20 years as a judge, and you're perfectly content with justices being afraid for their children's lives.
Honestly, I hate Merrick Garland, and I like Ted Cruz, and I get uncomfortable watching him just destroy these people sometimes. It's magnificent. Joining me now, Senator Ted Cruz. Okay, Senator, Merrick Garland, as much as I dislike the man, I can't figure out if he's an idiot or he's biased, because sometimes he seems like an idiot, but that wouldn't make sense given his background. And then if he's not an idiot, which I think we can rule that out, he looks like a complete Democrat hack who attacks his political opponents. What am I missing?
Listen, when he first became Attorney General, I had some reason for at least a tiny bit of hope and optimism. He had spent 24 years as a federal appellate judge on the D.C. Circuit, and his reputation as a judge was being relatively nonpartisan. He leaned left, but he was not perceived as one of the furthest left judges on the court. And so when he was appointed Attorney General, I hoped, okay, maybe we'll have an Attorney General who follows the law. I cannot overstate how disappointed I've been. I think Merrick Garland has proven to be the most partisan and political Attorney General this country has ever had. As you know, my latest book is entitled Justice Corrupted, How the Left Has Weaponized the Legal System. And it goes through, it details chapter and verse how Merrick Garland has used the Department of Justice as essentially the army for the DNC to attack the enemies of the Biden White House and to protect the friends of the Biden White House. And I don't know if it's that he personally is such a partisan or if he's just so weak that he rolls over and does what the partisans around him in DOJ insist. But what I do know, look, that exchange you just played, it is a federal crime to protest at the home of a judge in an effort to influence the judge's decision in a pending case. Hundreds of protesters went to the homes of the Supreme Court justices night after night after night after the Dobbs decision was leaked, and they were trying to intimidate the justices into changing their votes. Every one of them committed a federal crime, and the reason they haven't been prosecuted is because that man right there decided he didn't want to prosecute them, decided that his sympathies were with the criminals threatening to the justices instead of the justices. And by the way, later in that same hearing, I also questioned him about the crisis pregnancy centers that have been firebombed and vandalized all over the country, that the Department of Justice under Joe Biden is not devoting resources to catching those criminals, to prosecuting those criminals. And I contrasted that with how they're approaching pro-life activists. And in particular, I asked him about Mark Houck, the sidewalk counselor who got in a pushing altercation with somebody else. And typically, if you push someone, if you're prosecuted at all, it would be for misdemeanor, simple assault. In this case, Merrick Garland's Department of Justice sent about 24 FBI agents with body armor and helmets and rifles drawn at the crack of dawn. And Mr. Houck and his wife and 7 kids. Look, you're a dad. Can you imagine now? Now I know your wife, and she would be pretty tough on anyone that came in your front door. I'm framing this mildly. People think you're the tough guy in the relationship, and that's because they haven't hung out with her. But he refused to apologize. By the way, the statute that he wanted to prosecute this guy under made it a felony punishable by up to 13 years in prison for allegedly pushing a guy. They prosecuted him, and the jury in just a few minutes threw the case out and found him not guilty. They essentially said, this is garbage. and he refused to answer. Why the double standard? If you're a pro-life activist, if you're a parent speaking at a school board, if Merrick Garland doesn't like you, if Joe Biden doesn't like you, the G-men are coming knocking on your door. But if you're a left-wing activist, you got nothing to fear.
Senator, this is one of the things that I consider to be the most dangerous thing going on in the country today. I'm glad you wrote the book on it because, look, I don't like that we have a biased media, but I can change the channel. I can turn it off. Yeah. I don't like that Hollywood is crap now. I don't have to go to the new movie. My Department of Justice, if it has become hostile towards me and people who think like me, I have no recourse. There's nothing I can do. If the FBI shows up at my house today, I'm going to turn around and I'm going to be arrested, and that's just all there is to it. People are scared. I know your emails look like my emails. People are scared. How do we begin to reverse whatever this insanity is?
Look, we've got to get Joe Biden out of the White House. We've got to get Merrick Garland out of the Department of Justice. We need strong leadership in the White House and the Department of Justice and the FBI who can clean house, who can get the hardcore partisans out who burrowed into senior career positions. The FBI has been actively weaponized against the enemies of the Democrats. And, as you know, I do a podcast every week, 3 times a week, Verdict with Ted Cruz. We've done deep dives into the pattern of corruption from the Department of Justice and the FBI. And one of the most recent podcasts did a deep dive into the evidence that COVID-19 came from a Chinese lab. Now, mind you, on the Verdict podcast, I laid out that evidence 3 years ago in March of 2020 and April of 2020. I had 2 whole podcasts laying out chapter and verse the evidence at the time. For 3 years, the corporate media claimed that was a conspiracy theory. Big tech, at the behest of Dr. Fauci, suppressed and silenced that view. We now have 2 Biden agencies, the Department of Energy and the FBI, that have both concluded now that it's likely it came from a Chinese lab. I thought it was obvious 3 years ago, but Dr. Fauci lied to Congress. Under oath, he lied to Congress and said that the government had not funded gain-of-function research. The National Institute of Health has contradicted that in writing. And yet, I've asked Merrick Garland, are you going to investigate Dr. Fauci? Are you going to prosecute Dr. Fauci? You talk about the questions. I get questions from a lot of Texans. Is Fauci going to be held accountable? And I'm sorry to say the answer I have to give right now is legally, the answer is no, because there's only one human being on the face of the planet with the power to seek an indictment under federal criminal law, and that is Merrick Garland. And as long as the Attorney General is the political protector of left-wing Democrats when they lie to Congress and lie to the American people, we won't see an indictment. The answer is to throw the bums out of office and to elect people who actually will follow the law.